Dear students, today I am going to teach you about inbreeding and outbreeding in cattle. Before going into details of the inbreeding and outbreeding, let us learn about the introduction. There are almost 1000 species of cattle recognized all over the world. Coming to the India, there are 26 breeds of cattle and 7 breeds have been recognized, out of which 25% are pure breed and 75% mixed breed. Coming to the milk production in India, the average annual milk production of an Indian cow is just 173 kg, whereas the average annual milk production of a cow in Denmark is 3710 kg. In Switzerland, it is 3250 kg. And in USA, it is 3280 kg. We need to improve a lot in milk production because we are producing only 173 kg. So in order to improve the milk production, in order to get the good quality of meat, we need to learn the inbreeding and outbreeding processes. Before going in details about the inbreeding and outbreeding, let us learn about the definition of breeding. What is breeding? Breeding is nothing but the process of sexual reproduction which aims to produce offspring is called breeding. You know pretty well that breeding can only occur between male and female species. In the cattle breeding system, there are almost 3 basic systems. The first one is selection, the second one is inbreeding, the third one is outbreeding. Let us learn about the selection. The selection of the cattle are a breed mainly based on the records of its performance, because we are going to involve all these cattle in breeding process in order to get good quality of milk, good quality of meat. So for which we need to observe the performance records of a breed, right? The performance maybe includes high milk production, high butter percentage, and low food consumption, and regularity in the production, resistance to diseases. All these criteria can be considered for get them involved in the breeding process. Let us see the breeding processes. In breeding, irregularly breeding systems can be classified as 2 types. The first one is called inbreeding. The second one is called outbreeding. Inbreeding again divided into crossbreeding and line breeding. And there are almost 6 types of outbreeding process. The first one is called pure breeding. The second is line crossing. The third one is called outcrossing. The fourth one is called crossbreeding. The fifth one is called grading up. The sixth one is called species hybridization. Species hybridization. Before we are going through all these breeding systems, we need to learn about when the cattle and buffaloes are ready for breeding. It is most important. We cannot take a breeding process all the times. There are sometimes for the cattle. So we need to learn the times of breedings of the cattle and buffaloes. So by observing their estrus signs or estrus cycle, By observing their behavior, we could learn that the cattle and the buffaloes are ready for breeding. I will tell you some of the symptoms of the before the cattle and breeds are going for breeding or ready for breeding. The first symptom is these cattle are ready to get mounted by the other cows. Ready to get mounted by the other cows. And these cattle or cows can also attempt to mount other cows. And another symptom is stringy mucus coming out from the vulva. And sometimes this mucus smeared on bullocks. And you could observe that there is an increased restlessness among these cattle and buffaloes. They don't take any feed, regular feed. And sometimes these cows and buffaloes resting their chin on the rumps of other cows. Sometimes they raise their tails. Also, you could observe that the edema in the region of vulva. And we could also observe that there is a frequent urination process. And the milk yield is dropped. And they unnecessarily bellowing for number of times. These are all symptoms. You could observe that these animals are ready for breeding. Then by that time we can take up that animal for the breeding process. Now we are going to learn about the breeding types. The main breeding methods are two types: inbreeding and outbreeding. What is inbreeding? The name itself tells that inbreeding, which means closely related individuals. Here the breeding is taken place in between the closely related individuals. For example, brothers and sisters, and in between mothers and offsprings. Right? Now, why we need to encourage this inbreeding? Because inbreeding promotes uniformity in offsprings, in their characters. And inbreeding also increases the genetic purity of the stock. But there are some negative points are also there. Inbreeding lowers the milk production. Inbreeding lowers the fat percentage. And inbreeding increases the susceptibility to diseases. Inbreeding results in more mortality. Even though there are negative points, but for the purpose of getting pure genetic breed, we are encouraging inbreeding. Again, inbreeding can be classified into two types. The first one is called close breeding. The second one is called line breeding. Close breeding, line breeding. What is close breeding? Here, close breeding, the mating is happened in between very closely related individuals. Example, the mating is taken in between full brothers and full sisters, or in between the parents and offsprings. I mean the mothers and offspring. Coming to the line breeding. Line breeding is happened in between the selected mates based on the relation to a certain superior ancestors. Based on the relationship to a certain superior ancestors. Now let us go through the outbreeding. You know that in the name itself says that out, which means unrelated. Here the mating is taken place in between the unrelated animals. That is why this is called as outbreeding. It is almost opposite to the inbreeding. Outbreeding can be classified into 6 groups. The first one is called pure breeding. The second one is called line crossing. The third one is called outcrossing. The fourth one is called crossbreeding. The fifth one is called grading up. The sixth one is called species hybridization. Now let us learn about the pure breeding. Very simple, pure, but without mixing of any odd qualities. They are very pure. The mating here is taken place in between males and females of the same breed. Okay? Same breed. Mating is taken place in between the males and females of the same breed. Actually, this pure breeding is used for the purpose of production of bulls. This is the process of bull production. For example, I will give 3 examples here. Here, Ongole breed is there. So the Ongole cow breeds with Ongole bull, so that they will get, after the generations of mating, we will get a pure Ongole bull breed. Likewise, Jersey breed, in between Jersey breed cow is crossed with Jersey breed bull. It's a pure breed in order to get the pure breed. And at the same time, Morra buffalo, sea buffalo breed with Morra bull, so that we will get a pure Morra bull. This is called pure breeding. Coming to the line crossing, the unrelated male is mated with the females in breed lines, so that the offspring which is born out of such mating becomes hybrid. And this process is called hybrid vigor or heterosis. Simply we could say that outcrossing is a process of breeding where the mating is taking place in between unrelated purebred animals. Unrelated purebred animals in the same breed. Coming to the crossbreeding, it is the mating of animals of different breeds. Here the mating is taking place in different breeds. Okay, and it is the mating is observed for breeding animals for better milk production and better meat production. For example, in India, all the indigenous breeds of cows are crossed with exotic breeds like Holstein Friesian, Brown Swiss and Jersey bulls, or with their semen, to enhance the quality of milk production and the quality of meat. Advantage of crossbreeding. Simple advantage of crossbreeding is we will get the desirable characteristics of exotic breeds into our indigenous breeds. Okay, which means the desirable characters of the exotic breeds are transmitted to the indigenous breeds, so that the indigenous breeds are equipped with more and more high level qualities like high milk yield, early maturity, higher birth weight in calves, better growth rates, and better reproductive efficiency. Like many more characters will be developed in indigenous breeds. The fifth one is called grading up, in which bulls of the exotic breeds are mated with non-descript females and their offspring from generation to generation, so that after 5-6 generations, the population which comes out of through the generations are resembling the almost exotic breeds. This is the policy. This is the breeding policy that is being pursued in India. After 5 generations of this breeding, the grades carry 96.9%, 98.4% of exotic inheritance respectively. And the last one is called species hybridization. If we are going to learn about species hybridization, so let us learn about what is hybridization. Hybrid is nothing but an interbreeding between genetically distinct population is called hybridization. Then what is species hybridization? If the hybridization taken place between two different species is called species hybridization. This species hybridization can be occurred either spontaneously or by captive breeding. It is a common practice all over the world. And what is the advantage of hybridization? Hybridization leads to create new species. For example, the Jersey, Holstein Friesian, Ayrshire, like many species are hybrid species, from which we are getting better quality of milk, high yield of milk, as well as better quality of meat.